line will have an entire altcoin move to the upside. But in the same point, we want to speak around the rejection. Thank you so much. I need some water. So there's lots to speak around today. We do have a meeting with Trump today. There's a bunch of catalysts that can come into play. Me personally, I am 6 altcoins long right now. I want to speak around the top altcoins that I'm long in the market right now, but then as well as preparing you guys for the rest of the altcoin market. Now, I want to remind you, right, we are sitting at the biggest opportunities that I've seen in altcoins for a very long, basically back in year 1 of when I started my journey, right? We are sitting with the biggest risk to reward trades right now for altcoins. Right, and for me, I'm about to turn this incredibly big bullish hat on, right, over this next couple of weeks. And the recipe is quite simple. We're going to follow alts that are showing strength, right? But at the same point, we are going to get to a certain point where the entire altcoin market is going to wake up. I want this to be the show where we catch all the newest altcoins every day, right? That we find the best risk-reward ratios and alts that make sense on that play, right? And make a ton of money. One cycle changes your entire life. It is time now to put away all the months and all the craziness of this journey and focus on the next cycle. The cycle is about to repeat or restart at any point now. It is time for us to lock in. So if you're going to lock in today, smash the like up right now. Okay, let's go through tons of altcoins. I'm going to go through my 6 altcoins, and then I'm going to go through any altcoins that you guys want to see in today's show. And let's go again.
I try and help everyone in my space, and this is what I get. I try and fight the devils, but inside I'm just like Sniper. Welcome to Sheldon Show.
Okay, guys, let me know who's long right now, who's waiting for lower, what's your biggest altcoin bag? Let me know in the chats. One thing I want to start today is I want to start vibes through the roof again. We need vibes, we need energy, we need things rocking through here, but I need information from you guys. What altcoins you want to see? What are you in right now? Where's your heads at right now? Let's get everything back on track and let's go again, right? I'm super pumped. So again, as we go through these plays here, I want to show you this chart over here, which is important, right? Which is the total 3, right? Just remember where we're at right now. Okay, we are at a point of very big 618, right? When it comes to the total 3, but the important thing that I want to pay attention to is us hovering now at the support. Here's the support trend line, just to show you guys, right? So let's put the support trend line in here. There we go. Right, there's a support trend line. And what you have is price really crunching up. Okay, so just telling us now, anywhere in this next week now, we are going to see a move. Okay, now again, you have to look at the risk to reward ratios here, right? You have to look at the play, and let's go through the 2 major plays here quickly. Okay, yes, a break of the lows here, right? We could be sending down to this area over here, right? Put this in a $40,000 to $50,000 Bitcoin range, right? That's the first thought process of here. Okay, then we look at the next play, which is the bullish play. And the bullish play is quite simple, right? That if we break this trend here, the first stop is mid-range, right? The first major move is here and basically sending, right, up to $80 to $90 billion into altcoins, right? But at the same point, you have to realize that we are going to have a mid-range test of this entire leg at some point. And this for me can be the starting point on the bullish scenario of us actually attempting to the mid-range. Right, so looking at those 2 major plays over there, you have to now look at the obvious trades that are sitting here right now, right? Trading always just comes down to probability and coming down to managing the risk and making sure reward is worth the risk, right? So if you pop this in here and you say, hey, I'm going to long this market right now, right, from here, okay, and I'm talking spot, I'm talking long-term, I'm talking even trading, right? Trading works when markets are trending. The moment we break that top trend line, the market's going to be trending again. So trading is going to become fun again. But at the same point, the way to make money here is to find good spot buys, long-term buys, and to get the bigger move, right? But nonetheless, if I look at this over here and I look at the entries, and let's go all the way up over here where we actually break the trend. So higher than where we are now, right? And we look at this play over here and we look for a mid-range push over the next couple of weeks to months. Right, and you can just see we are sitting with ridiculous risk to reward ratios right now, right? The amount that you will make versus the amount that you're putting at risk, right, is sitting on the level of what you want in a trader's mindset. Okay, so that for me is the play there. Now, if I do the same thing when it comes to shorting the market or being bearish, now I'm a personal person right now that's not really in the shorting mindset. You know, the way I kind of think of it is this is kind of football, right? Call it soccer, football, whatever it may be, right? I've chosen to be a striker, right? And the striker comes when bull markets come. I do a lot of insane thing in bull markets, right? Yes, the downfall is defending, right? The defending kind of process. However, through 2-3 cycles that you kind of go through, you get better at that. You get better at diversifying, all these different things. You guys know I paid millions of dollars in lessons when it comes to defending. But nonetheless, right, for me, I'm preparing for the ball to come to the front of the pitch, right? The ball has been in the defending part of the pitch now for many months. So if I want to be ahead of the curve and I want to be someone that really makes a lot of money in the next cycle, I need to start changing my mind and getting ready for that, right? So therefore, for me, I'm not really in the shortest mentality. I'm in the, hey, I'm going to ride this next wave and I'm going to financially retire in this next wave. That is my personal goal when it comes to the next major wave here. And I'm getting ready for that ball to come to the front of the pitch, right? So if we look at this over here, okay, for me, a shorting aspect of things, right, or kind of bearish view, right, is this. I could maybe take a play today and say, hey, I'm shorting the market for a push down to that area. That kind of makes sense. Good risk to reward, okay? But when it comes to me as an investor, right, I then have to put the investor levels. So this is something of, okay, what can maybe happen over the next week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks type of view. But if I'm an investor, I have to say, hey, no, where can price actually go? Right, as over the next couple of months. And then that's what the risk to reward comes down to. Right, so if we look at this now, that is now my risk, and then that is now my reward. So it's becoming quite obvious to me, right, when I look at this right now, that this is where I'm preparing for longs in the markets, okay? But at the same point, we have to now understand how the cycle is going to work. So again, the key thing here is you want to see a slowdown, right? Slowdown is always good. It's preparation for the next move. Then what you have is complete boredom and depression, right? So psychologically right now, no one's really interested, right? Someone gets very interested when this happens. Someone gets very interested when this happens. Until then, nothing's really there at this point. Then what I look for is I track down and I want to find key trends. So right now, what you'll see on many altcoins is key daily trends. Right, and the simple thing is to catch out the breakouts over here and have good stop losses in these areas. And as this starts to break up, start moving those stop losses up, right? And once you get to a really good period, move those stops to entry and ride the wave, right? That is the key here. The key is to open up slight bit of risk in the beginning and then start narrowing that risk down so that eventually it's nothing, right? And then you actually start moving stops and these type of things into into profits and all these different type of things. So this is where we're at right now. Okay, so let's go through the plays of what I'm seeing right now in the markets and what I'm specifically seeing for Bitcoin price and all of that. Let me just get the right charts up here. Okay, so here we are sitting with Bitcoin. Okay, so Bitcoin is in the major bull flag. We had an attempt yesterday of actually breaking through the top. We have rejected, right, for now. Okay, now what we have is this bottom. So we have this flag in play over here. So the way it works for Bitcoin is I want to see a close right outside of 65,100, right? A daily close above that, then we are looking at a squeeze up to the areas of $70,000. Okay, but remember what I said now. All we're looking for is the first major move, break key areas, and then from there we basically look at natural momentum coming through. I can kind of see people are starting to turn bullish, right? A lot of guys are starting to slowly come into play. So it means interest will come back very quickly once we do break through. But the key thing why we want to break through on there is for altcoins to break through the highs, right? Now, the good sign that we are seeing here on the Bitcoin dominance, right? Because this is altcoin play that we're seeing right now, right? These altcoins are basically, or the dominance is sitting in this massive range over here. But it's a good daily candle that we are starting to form here. But secondly, we're rejecting still. We're still below the 200-day moving average. Right, so as it stands right now, there's a very good chance that we could actually see this come down. And there's one token that we can really see strength coming into right now, specifically over the rest of the markets, right? And that token is Ethereum, right? So Ethereum now is actually breaking out of a daily flag that we've been sitting in for the last week or two, okay? And we are actually now looking for a possible squeeze, but at the same point, you have to now zoom out to the high time frame and look at what this actually means, right? The last time that we had a real breakthrough when it came to the 200-day, right, is we actually saw an outperformance of ETH and the rest of the altcoin market of up to 53%, right? Now, if you take this back into play here and you see that, hey, we're bullish on a total 3 here on the break of this major trend here, you can see that ETH is slowly starting to come back as a major big player. But why that's so important is because if you look at the Ethereum to Bitcoin, right, this is on the verge of a massive squeeze as well. Okay, and I'm going to get to a point now that's very important for us to basically start preparing the scenarios of the next cycle, right? The next cycle is super, super, super important, and the scenarios are super important as well, because something is going to happen different. Last cycle, something happened different, and I want to give the different views of what could happen this cycle. But what I'm starting to see here, right, is us having consecutive 3-4 weeks closing outside of the 200-day moving average to the Bitcoin pairing gives me a good sign that we could see a nice squeeze to the upside. Right, and the same thing that the last time ETH had a break like this, which was all the way in 2025, right, mid-2025, we did see an outperformance of ETH of up to 66%. So why am I bringing this information to you now? Is what makes it a possibility right now that a altcoin leg actually leads this next bull cycle. Then we flip into a Bitcoin kind of catch up. Right? Do not be surprised. Now, if you look at the last cycle we had, which I don't think was a full altcoin cycle, it was very much a Bitcoin cycle. Okay, but we never had the altcoins catch up. Usually Bitcoin leads the race, and then usually we have an altcoin rally that basically catches up. We did not have that this time, right? And if you go back here to the Bitcoin dominance price, or to the Bitcoin dominance over here, this is the major chart I want to show you guys. Right, this is where we're sitting. So for the last 2 cycles, we've had a distribution of altcoins, right? Massive distributions. Last cycle, we did not have it, okay? And why? Because players like ETH were not involved, right? The ETH dominance was getting tanked. The ETH to Bitcoin was getting absolutely destroyed, right? This time, we're actually breaking the very high time frame ETH plays, right, to dominance and Bitcoin. We're breaking the Solana to Bitcoin pairing. Right, I see a verge of an XRP break into. I'm seeing just a bunch of the major big caps actually showing some strength in these times and actually breaking key levels, which means that the next Bitcoin move that we could see rally to the upside could actually be the altcoins leading the race this time, then Bitcoin catching up. And if we look at this big wedge over here, what I'm basically looking for over the next couple of months, right, is I'm looking for the dominance to come back down to the early 40%. Okay, and then that for me will be the cycle, and then we'll continue. And we'll basically see over the next couple of years where this wedge kind of goes. Okay, but what we're seeing right now is if we look and you zoom in here, you can see that we're just consolidating below the 200-day moving average, right? And we're consolidating below this trend that we actually broke all the way in May. Okay, gives me a good sign that we could actually have an altcoin run. Right, and not only an altcoin run where we have to wait for Bitcoin to get to $100,000 before we have the run could actually be starting off right now, right? At any moment once we start to break those trends. So it's an important thing now to take that information and say, okay, like placing bets right now is quite important, and specifically blue chips, specifically high caps as well, and things that we're snoozing on like ETH and things like that should slowly start coming back into play, right? And that's the important thing now. Now, again, what kind of changes this scenario is a push up here. And if that happens, right, that for me, Bitcoin will hunt down at $80,000, $90,000 very quickly. Okay, but I do want to paint the scenario here. So if that happens, very fast Bitcoin. But now if we look at Bitcoin and we go back to the Bitcoin price here, and we see a Bitcoin push up to 70, 80,000, that dominance comes down, right? It gives you an idea of the size. Guys, you're looking at 100, 200, $300 billion coming to the altcoins. Now, is every altcoin going to pump? I think every altcoin will have its day. Okay, but it's not every altcoin that I want to hold in my long-term bag. So always just think slightly fundamentally here when it comes to ones that you want to hold for 2 years. But I do think hundreds of altcoin trades are going to be available. And I think they're there to take, and I think they're there to take profits on, right? No more holding, no more sitting and I'm going to hold. But if you look at where the trades are right now and the money that can be made in this market, right, we are definitely sitting in a huge opportunity, but taking profits is super, super, super important. Okay, so let's go through a couple of the trades right now that I'm preparing for. Okay, I do know there's a little bit of news today. I do know that could get a little bit more volatile, and we do need to see, you know, for as long as we're sitting below here, I do need to know that trappery is still here. Is trapper even a word? Whatever, right? Trap zones or whatever it may be, right? We're still here in play, which means that if you look at this chart right now on the total 3, right, there could be a play of something like this and something like this come into play, okay? But because we are approaching the top as well, don't be surprised for this, okay? And don't be surprised that if we don't see days and days and days of any pullbacks, you just see a major squeeze that's happening. It is well due. We've been waiting a long time for this. So if we're going to ETH over here, I'm going to give you guys 2 scenarios of what I'm basically seeing here. Here's one long that I am building, okay? And I'm in on this long over here. I'm actually all in on this position right now, okay? However, at the same point, I do have a secondary scenario that I want to speak around. But the important sign here is ETH is breaking the daily trend, and I'm going to trade it like it's real. All right, that's the important thing. If we go through a breakup and you want to now go and meet and go and mingle and go find a new date again or new partner, right? You can't allow the fear from the last relationship. It's going to ruin your date, right? You're never going to move on. Right, so the important thing here is moving on. So if I'm committing, and I'm not allowing my the 10th of October, right, to affect this decision. It's very important. I see people rolling into the stream. There we go. Smash the likes up. Here we go. Views are coming back. Momentum's coming back. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Okay, so daily close outside of 1910 yesterday was a good sign for ETH. Okay, so I've longed ETH in this area over here. Okay, your zones are basically the early 1900 to the areas of 1920. Okay, what I want to speak about right now is trades for the next move, the squeeze. Right, I've given you guys my views on the high time frame that I think everything on Total 3 on on altcoins, blue chip altcoins, is at long-term buys. Right, I really do. I think you can give yourself a 10-20% range there. But allocating and building your bags right now fully makes sense. This is for the personal squeeze over here. Okay, then what you have, okay, is I have us breaking back into the wedge. Okay, if that happens, that's why a stop loss for me is very important, where I'm looking at basically a 1880 type of area of my stop losses. Okay, but what I'm looking for is a squeeze for ETH up to $2,100 to $2,200. Right, that is the position, and I do see this happening in a couple of days. Specifically, if we start breaking the Total 3. Right, so that's the one play over there. If we are going to go into the secondary play now, okay, and I'm actually going to bring up this chart over here for you guys. Let's go here onto WEEX. Guys, remember, anyone that doesn't have a WEEX account, you get $100, right, for subscribing to the Telegram channel. There's a whole bunch of rewards, WEEX accounts. There we go, links below in the description. Okay, let's jump back in over here. Let's go, let's go, let's go. No, not XRP. Okay, now let's speak around the next scenario, which is basically the fake out, right? Things don't kind of go fully to plan. If that's so, guys, all I'm looking for is I'm looking for a push down to this level over here, and I'm actually looking to reopen my longs up around the areas of 1850, right? So that's where my next plays come in. Right now I'm in plan A, I'm fully long, I'm in, but this will be my next areas of where I'm looking to long, right? For the same play up to 2,100, 2,200 area over here. And that's just because we could see, and let's go through the quick plays here of Bitcoin, right? We could see Bitcoin want to come and test the mid $63,000 zones. So because Bitcoin is sitting in this flag right now, okay, we could actually see a push here, and then we could see momentum again for the upside over here. Again, this pattern is a bullish pattern. It's a bull flag that we are seeing. We are not seeing an uprising wedge. Therefore, I'm still very much longing any support buys that we come into this area over here. Okay, then let's jump into Solana. Solana is the next one breaking out right now. Here's the trade setup, right? So the entry areas right now are sitting the mid 76 to the areas of 77.3, right? Those are the areas. When I'm looking at my stop loss areas, I'm looking at 75.5, right? It's quite simple. You draw this bottom trend in here, and I'm keeping my stops below this area over here. I'm looking for a Solana push. I actually think Solana is going to be one of the altcoins that are going to break 200 daily moving averages. Right, that's when things really get juicy, guys. You could see we've been sitting below this 200-day moving average for some time. Okay, and you can see the moment that we do start to break it, you'll start to see high time frame moves come into play. So the last time we broke it at 166, we actually rode up to 256. Right, over a couple of weeks, okay, or to a couple of months, we had a strong momentum move over there. So the first play is, yes, there'll be a little bit of turbulence over here at the 81, 82. Okay, but I'm actually looking at us breaking through that area to the 90s. I think there'll be a little cool-off zone, and I do see a $120 to $140 Solana possibly by the end of this year, right? Maybe even quicker. We'll see. I wouldn't be surprised if altcoin just goes crazy fat green candle at any point, just catches everyone off of guard, right? Everyone is still waiting for $40,000, right? Which, yes, have it there, have it prepared in your brain, have it there. But we've heard this enough now. What about the scenario where it catches the entire market off of guard? Right, the one that sends a fat green candle that just leaves everyone behind. Then what? Right, then you're going to be chasing up those major areas over there. That's exactly why I'm a striker, and I'm preparing that the ball is coming to the front of the pitch, and I'm going to score goals when they get there. So there is Solana. Solana definitely one of the stronger altcoins right now. Then I'm going to bring out a dust coin. not dust coin, but one that I have never really been a crazy trader of, but I've always spoken about is XRP. Right, so if we look at XRP here, I want to speak about this for a second, and I'm actually going to clear this up to show you guys. Right, so XRP is back, right, at the resistance of where it previously accumulated. So what I mean by that is XRP sat a long time between 2022 all the way to 2024. You sat in a 2-year range in this area over here, right? Then what happens is you basically get to the point of turning that range into support, right? So if you look at that range right now, you could see that that is where we are sitting right now in support, right? Which means that even though we have seen a XRP pullback, right, as well we've seen with the entire market, right, it's actually, this is the strongest that it's been in a very long time. Right, if this is the possible lows, okay, over here, it's the strongest XRP has been because you judge things to the downside, you don't judge them to the upside, okay? But what's making me more interested in this right now, okay, is how we've been trickling down like this, okay? And if you just draw these damn trends over here, you could see that we are on a verge of a nice possible breakout, okay? So the two plays that I'm looking for XRP over here, the first one is I'm long right now. I'm long and I have stop losses under the previous low, okay? If there is a scenario of another shakeup, Bitcoin wants to come down to the $63,500, $62,000 zone, we might see a push down where I'm looking for my next longs at 95 cents. Again, that's plan B, okay? So again, in the next show, if that does happen, we'll find the next major entries. But what I've done now is I've actually longed XRP, right? I've actually longed XRP for a breakout. This might be that first little tip you see there. Guys, if this plays out, it's a really good entry. Like we'll be those that are catching it super early. So I'm taking a bet here, I'm taking a play here. So again, the way it's kind of looking for me here is I'm looking at something like this as my risk category. But if we look at the reward category, right, I'm actually looking at, again, over the next couple of weeks, a push up to 1.3. Okay, areas over there. And that's the way I'm seeing this trade setup right now. It's something like this. Right, this is the setup that I'm seeing. This is the one I'm preparing for. Okay, this does mean I'll be holding for some time. So if I'm holding for some time, there are a few rules that you basically come into play. Right, the first one is you look at the risk to reward. Okay, the second one is you basically look at the allocation of your position. Right, so I'll basically say, okay, this thing's at a 3% risk. Okay, I'm going to leverage it, but I'm only going to put 40% in because I don't want to lose $500, more than $500, let's say, right? Then the third one, okay, is remove risk, right? Remove risk, which basically means that, okay, so the moment that I see XRP, right, break above this level, which I think is an important one, which is this area of this 1.04, right, I'm going to move my stops to entry. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus that once we're above there, I'm going to focus on buying the rest of my account in, buy the rest of the position in, right? So once you get through this piece over here of removing the risk, then you look at adding. And that's it. Okay? And if that plays in and we get this trade, it's a mega trade, a risk to reward of 1 to 15. It's crazy, right? So XRP is the one that is important for me that I'm paying attention to. Then, wait, it's not this one yet. Okay, another dust coin. Here we go. HBAR. HBAR. You know what's crazy? 2021, 2022, I'd speak about these coins and I would get absolutely judged. Like, judged to a point where it's like, I kind of feel like I'm in my little ball, right? Dust coins. Remember Ron would tell me, dust coins, old coins. Oh, no. And then 2024 came, right? And these things outperformed everything. Right? Look at this. Look what happened in 2024. Right? Boom. Right? Look what happened in 2025. Boom. Huge moves. If you look at percentage moves here, right? 500% that happened over here. So gets me back to the exact same point. If there's money to be made, you trade it, right? No more only this. Altcoins don't work. All these things anymore. Okay. So I wanted to say that because it's important, right? It's important to trade where the money's at and take your money, stick to the system. I've given you guys the 4-step system now, right? Risk to reward, allocation, remove risk, buy more in, and keep removing risk, right? That is the play over here. So HBAR is the next one I want to speak around. Okay, we have this trend coming down and we are popping our head through right now. So again, the two plays that can happen, fake out, back to the lows, and then push up. Okay, that's the B scenario. A scenario is it plays out perfectly for a push up to the area of 8 to 9 cents, right? So up to a 30% move to the upside, okay? Therefore, if I look at this over here, put a nice little Fibonacci, okay? It gives me an idea of where to put a stop loss, okay, over here. So something like this, there's 2 to 3 stop loss areas. If I'm leveraging this thing, right, I'm looking at 66-ish, 6.6 cents-ish as my stop losses. If I'm giving it a bit more room, right, I'm looking at around 6.5, just to really give it some space, because there is a bit of chop right now, okay? And that's the important thing, is sometimes space and just zooming out a little bit is quite important to stay in the position and not get flushed out, right? But then I look at the play of a next couple of days to weeks. Again, I don't want to put time, because I know in my brain these things can happen quickly, but I know they could also take a little bit of time to get through, okay? But I'm looking at a push up to the 8 to the 9 cent mark over here. Now, zoom out and look at the trade I just gave you. Tiny in comparison of what it can be in the high time frame, right? Tiny, 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 tiny. Okay, but that is the first. That's why I want us to lock in now. We might be sitting in a privileged position in the next couple of weeks to sit and say, guys, we've longed every altcoin bottom. Are we going to hold this for the bull cycle? Right? Or we're going to take some profits and get new entries? That is what you want. You want to be able to have options that are great options, not bad options, great options. Right? And that is the important thing here. I just want to see here quickly. Okay, do you have altcoins in the chat? I'm about to go through your altcoins, guys. Okay, amazing. Okay, next one that I want to speak around, Cardano. Okay, so this one is slightly more spottish. What I mean by that is I need to give it a little bit more space, right, than the rest. But I do think a big catch-up on Cardano is incoming. Okay, so the first thing that I want to show you guys is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 red candles in a row on the daily, right? Insane. We then had a good candle that came in yesterday, which is a doji candle, right? Good sign over here. If we now drag up a couple of Fibonacci points over here, right, to give you guys a nice little idea, we are hovering, we are hovering on the major 618s. Okay, so that means that there are 2 big bounce areas. There are where we are right now, and there is, if Bitcoin wants to go to 63, a little flush to this trend over here, right? So I've been longing XRP. I've actually longed, like if let's say I got $1,000, I've longed around $400. I do have $300 sitting on limit orders at the early 17-cent mark. So this does mean that good stop losses are probably sitting in the areas of the mid 16 cents, right? Stop losses that give it space, that give it room right now. But the next thing that I want to show you guys as well, okay, is if you drag this trend all the way from the top down over here, you could see that we're starting to pop on the other side of the trend. Now, I quickly want to educate you on trend breaks, because I think there's 2 ways that it kind of catches people off of guard, okay? So what a trend line actually does in this case, right, is it actually tells you that the momentum or the current move that was happening is starting to change. Okay, so if something is moving like this and moving down and down and down and down and down, and then we start to break the trend, okay, it means 2 scenarios. The one is it means that it starts to move up like this, right? The second one basically means that it's going to go into an accumulation phase, right? Which basically means that don't be surprised if this does this and then does this. Okay, because what you'll tend to see is you've got the strong directional moves, you've got the sideways moves, and then you've got the upwards moves. So sometimes it goes into this phase. So therefore, if it breaks the trend, you have to realize that, yes, there is a scenario of it going straight up like this, but it might actually just sit for 2-3 days and do this, right? And you don't want to get trapped in that and get stopped out 100 times, okay, because you bought the breakouts and you moved the stops up too quick or anything like that. Okay, so when it comes to things like this, I look at where's the next key level below, and I just try avoid being in that space. And if that means that it's too much risk, then that means, okay, then I'm not super high leveraging this thing. I'm spot buying it, or I'm low leveraging it. I'm only putting 20, 30% of the capital in for now until it's clear that this is now on the uptrend, and I can add the rest in when that basically comes into play, right? So that's the important play when it comes to breaking out here. So again, with that being said over here, this could go into this little phase now of basically chopping around and then wanting to go up. Therefore, I'm looking to buy here, I'm looking to buy here, and I'm looking to give room over here when it comes to my stop losses. What you can also do is you can zoom in slightly, okay, and you can see that we are currently now hitting this trend line over here, Okay, so if I see this bounce, I've bought some now, I got it room. But I see it bounce here and start to break here, this will be another execution point for me to get more into it. Okay, but nonetheless, out of the education now, jumping straight into Cardano itself, I do see us having another ramp up for Cardano up to the areas of 24 to 25 cents, right? So if you look at percentage-wise, I'm looking up to a 35% move to the upside, right? So that's one that I wanted to pay attention to. Then I want to get to NEAR protocol, guys. Now, NEAR is in this play over here, right? Where it's basically sitting in this, this descending wedge, and it's just hovering at the 200-day moving average. Okay, so there's two ways to trade NEAR. The first one, okay, is in the next 2-3 days, you see a break and a close outside of this trend. It's the long, right? So something that you can wait, close outside here, stop loss here, long up. I'm looking for push to $2.4 to $2.6, right? So I'm looking for a big trade on NEAR. Okay, the next one, okay, is if you want to be longing this type of area over here, because what is the downside of waiting for a daily close outside is you might miss it, right? So sometimes what you'll see is a candle will come here, break the trend, and it will just go. And now you're waiting for a close, and this candle's sitting all the way up over here. Okay, so what I then tend to do is I tend to then do the laddering system, right? Where I basically say, okay, I'm going to buy 30% in this area. We are at the 618. I do need to, however, put a stop loss with some, I need to put a decent size stop loss here. Now, just because you're putting a bigger stop loss, right, doesn't mean that you're just treating it like I'm just going to have this risk. The key with a stop loss is you say, okay, realistically, where do I have to put a big stop loss? So I'd have to put it at, let's say, 1.48. Right? I look at that percentage, and it's quite a big one, right? It's around 6%. Okay, so then when I sit and I say, okay, I do want to leverage this thing, but I'm obviously not going to put 100% of the money in. It's too much risk, but I'm going to put 20, 30% in now. Okay, but I have to know at some point, for me to put any more money into this, I have to remove that risk. So therefore, I buy, I give it space because it's looking good, high time frame, 200-day, it makes sense, and it can come into play over here. Okay, but the moment we do start getting outside of here, it's important that I start moving this up, and then I can start adding the rest of the capital in. But nonetheless, when it comes to NEAR, right, this for me is one of the favorite trades that I'm getting ready for right now, is a push up to the areas of the 2.4. Okay, how many have I gone through now? Solana, HBAR, XRP, Cardano. Okay, then I want to update an ETH. I want to update a Chainlink. We had great entries on Chainlink, guys. We got this thing nice and early in the early 8s. This thing is looking good now. Okay, so just to remind you guys, a nice breakout. Obviously, I'm not short-term trading this right now. Okay, it's getting to this major trend here. If we do see a rejection, there'll be some new buys in the early $9 mark. Okay, but I am not selling, right? So I'm keeping my Chainlink position. I'm actually looking to sell up at this area over here of up to $14 to $16. Just to show you that slowly in the background, some altcoins are starting to wake up right now. Okay, guys, let's see. What tokens do you want me to chart for you? Let me know. What tokens? What tokens? What tokens? Okay, let's go. Let's jump in here. Okay, pump. So guys, this is obviously on a nice little ramp, like it's really moving nicely. We do want to see it speed up at some point, okay? But it's quite clear to navigate this trade, right? It's very far from any bearishness right now. Bearishness is below this area over here, this trend. So put this daily trend in over here. If I'm looking to buy this, guys, realistically, I am looking for this thing to stop and have something like this, right? That is where I'm looking to buy more pump when it comes to a position. So for now, the major update that I have here is this bottom trend, that it's bullish for as long as it holds this trend. Then let's speak about upside, right? Because it's coming into this big patch of resistance over here, okay? And then after that, you've got a big squeeze. Okay, so again, for something like this, I'm waiting for, let's say, pullbacks there to be buying, okay? Unless we do see something like this come into play where it breaks through, then I'll possibly be looking at this area here. Okay, so there is a squeeze over there. For now, there is a resistance ahead. That's the trend line to help you keep key of that. Okay, INJ. Yes. I'm buying a lot of INJ at the moment. Whatever I can. Guys, I even sold my favorite car in this bear market. Missed it. But I did. I've been buying some bags. So we can go buy the car back and more. Okay, so probably looking, if we look at this over here on the weekly, right, we're probably looking, let's actually bring it up here. Okay. Okay, here we go. So again, navigate the pattern, right? You can clearly see that it's a bullish pattern. Okay, this one is still a few days away from a major breakout. Okay, but really, really, really big nice bull flag that we are seeing. Okay, we are hovering below 618, so there is a good chance we could see a test of 3.7. Okay, that would be a really good long point over there. But where you really want to catch it is obviously the trend break, right? If you want to just stay out, wait patiently, right? That is what I'm looking for. Nonetheless, I'm very bullish on this high time frame. I do think once we exit here, we are going to see a strong move up to the $10 mark. Right, so quite strong over there. Okay, let's do last one over here. Okay, super farm, nice. It's been a while. We are going to dust all of these coins up. I haven't spoken to Dylan. We have to dust the MetaMask off. You know, we've got to get everything back on track again. Okay, so here's super farm. Obviously just pulling down crazy. Good sign is in slight accumulation over here. So I'm not trading this. This is something that I'd invest in right now and not really trade because it just needs a bit of time. There's no volume right now. It's crazy. But the good sign is that it is doing this cup, right? So if you then start to zoom in here, you'll see that there's basically a range. So if you look at the range here, you put the top trend in, right? You put this over here, there's the channel. So where this thing really starts to make some steam and momentum is this side. Right, is where it will start making a nice move to the upside over there. Until then, I can just hover. It's hard to see exactly where it's going to go downside, anything like that. For me, I just keep momentum on this, right? High time frame, obviously, again, if we just zoom out here and we look at where this thing could go, right? The important thing here is to see that specifically on the weekly that we are sitting, let's actually highlight these areas here, right? You got resistance over here, which is at 15, so it's 100% away, and then your next resistance is sitting up at this area over here. So if I'm looking at like a higher time frame bull market scenario, I do think these areas could be hit. Okay, but temporary, if I want to see some money possibly over the next couple of weeks, right, a nice push up of up to 100% kind of move, take your initial out and leave the rest of the bull market is also a really good strategy. Guys, can we please smash up the likes and bring vibes? I'll see you guys again tomorrow. Bring vibes. I have something exciting. I'm launching a challenge. So we're going to be doing a $100 a day challenge with you guys next week for 5 days. So pay attention to the link, join tomorrow's show because we're going to do some live trading together, stuff outside of the shows, personal on a Zoom. It's going to be a lot of fun. So make sure you join tomorrow's stream. Thank you for watching. Have a great day. Lots of love. Bye-bye.